Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shawna Khalafi. We're going to be talking about some winter weather that could be on the way once again, just days after that historic winter storm last weekend sweeping the nation. A new storm could be hitting many parts of the East Coast, burying some places and almost a foot of snow. Fox Weather says a powerful low pressure area will form off the coast of the Carolinas by Saturday, spinning into a dangerous nor'easter as it travels north. So let's bring in Joe Martucci from Cup Joe Weather. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Sure, you're welcome. Thanks, Shawna, for having me. Appreciate it.
So what can we expect here? I mean, a lot of states are expecting to take yet another hit after last weekend's storm. So where are we going to be feeling the most impacts this time around?
Yeah, so this time it looks to be actually a significant issue in the southeast, particularly the Carolinas, where North and South Carolina are going to see 6 to 12 inches of snow, even in like the Outer Banks in North Carolina. With all the cold air we've seen over the past week or so up and down the East Coast means that those areas that don't typically see those kind of big snows will see it. And actually, New Jersey, where I'm based in, besides the immediate coast, we're not going to see much in cities, like Trenton and Newark, and same things for much of the I-95 corridor in the Northeast as well. This is primarily Carolina's focus.
And some of these places are still working to clean up or recover from last week's snow and cold weather and ice. So what is the significance or the concerns that come with having another significant cold weather event coming so soon after another storm?
Yeah, the cleanup in areas like in Virginia, let's say, have been slow after the storm that we had last weekend. You're just not able to, salt, not only salt, sometimes salt isn't even, the typical rock salt doesn't work in these kind of cold conditions, but also too, when you have temperatures that are sub-freezing, this snow and ice just doesn't melt. I think a lot of times we take for granted in the mid-Atlantic, even in the Carolinas, that when it snows, it can at least melt a little bit as the sun comes out. But sun's coming out, but we're not seeing much in the way of any kind of warm up above 32. Now, again, it does look like the I-95 corridor in the Northeast will be mostly dry, if not completely dry. But for those areas, again, in Virginia or in North Carolina that already saw snow and ice a couple of days ago, well, now they're getting this. This is something, they just don't see too often.
So let's talk a little bit about the timeline here. So Fox Weather is saying that as soon as Saturday is when the Carolinas could start seeing this system, and then it's going to start heading north. So break down the timeline here. When can different states expect to see the effects of this?
Yeah, so just like Fox Weather said, I mean, this does look to be, for places like Myrtle Beach and the Outer Banks. This looks to be a Saturday afternoon. It's a Saturday night thing, and then for places like Norfolk and Virginia Beach, more of just Saturday night alone. And here in New Jersey, again, where I'm based out of, we're saying that this would be primarily Sunday during the morning. But again, this low pressure system is unique in the sense that compared to typical coastal storms, it's taking a track further east than our typical kind of coastal storm track, which is helping to bring that kind of snow into places that's a little more unusual to see, 6, 8, 10 inches of snow, like the Outer Banks or even in eastern North Carolina.
And snow is not the only concern here. Of course, some places will see some heavy snowfall, but also there are some concerns about the strong winds, possible flooding in these coastal areas. What could happen there?
Yeah, so unlike last Sunday where we really caught a break with the moon being in the quarter moon stage, which brings astronomically lower tides, this time we have the full moon on Sunday, February 1st. And what that does is that naturally elevates the tide. So it doesn't take much of an onshore wind to get into what we would call minor or nuisance kind of flooding. And I do believe that anywhere from, again, Myrtle Beach, up into the Carolinas, and even up into New Jersey and Long Island will see tidal flooding with the high tides either late Saturday or early Sunday here. When you have gusty winds coming from the onshore direction, you have this full moon that we are going to see. We are expecting up to a foot of water on what is normally dry land for a lot of these places.
And ahead of last weekend's storms, we saw a lot of people preparing, getting a lot of groceries, grocery aisles kind of cleaned out. This time around, how can people prepare, especially in the Carolinas where they're going to see a big impact here?
Yeah, so for these areas, I if you have a generator, just make sure to have that ready just in case. Whether it's the wind or the snow or the combination of two knocks out power. We're also, you always want to make sure you have enough warm layers and clothing and blankets available just in case you lose heat for a period of time. I mean, as most people in the East Coast know, it has been plenty cold over the past couple of days, and that will continue here. And even in places that depending on where you are, it doesn't feel all that cold. But let's say Florida, for example, or Tampa and St. Petersburg, they're expected to get down into the 30s here with wind chills even colder than that. To just bundle up and be prepared as well. If you have four-wheel drive, if you have all-wheel drive, make sure you use it if you are driving in those areas that will see the accumulating snow as well. But listen, if you stay in over the weekend, hopefully because it's the weekend, less people need to be out and about. Stay home, and hopefully our friends in the Carolinas can enjoy some of this winter weather that we do see here across the area.
And Joe, last thing here. I mean, it's hard to predict exactly what will happen, even with these forecasts being so advanced. If people are thinking, maybe last time around those warnings felt more dramatic than what they actually saw, they might be doubting what could come next. What would you say to people who maybe think it's not as serious as what we're forecasting here?
Yeah, I mean, last weekend, I think it was a complicated storm to communicate on a national level because it really was historic in some parts of the United States, but it wasn't everywhere. I think it's always good, to have a trusted, not just trusted, but a good local source for weather in your local area, as well as watching, national brands like Fox Weather, for example. I'm actually here at the American Meteorological Society conference in Houston, Texas. We talked a lot about this. We have certifications from the AMS, a certified broadcast meteorologist seal, certified digital meteorologist seal. If you, do a little bit of homework and find those sources, I'm sure there is a meteorologist in your area who has one of those seals. And, those are really good sources of information to trust here.
And we'll be watching your reporting as well. Thank you so much, Joe Martucci from Cup of Joe Weather. Hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. We appreciate it.
Excellent. Thanks so much for having me.